It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. Right now, I'm going to speak to parents, and particularly parents who are dealing with children that are teething right now. Ding, 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 ding. Alarm bells ringing out. Teething is a process that all babies have to go through, and all parents as well as a result. And this can sometimes be quite painful for the little ones as their teeth actually break or cut through their gums, and it can cause a lot of irritation. You can imagine that itching. So as a parent, it's often very difficult to know what to do to make babies at least a little bit more comfortable during this vital teething phase. And back again to give us some tips to help parents through teething is pediatrician and allergist Professor Claudia Gray. Prof, welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you.
You keep taking me back. I thought I'd just gotten out of this phase of life, and now I've got to go right back there.
Maybe for the next one.
Yeah, don't even joke, okay? But it can be heartbreaking because your little one goes through so much, but it's a natural process. So when does the teething process really kick in? And explain to us what's going on in that little mouth and what can it result in terms of their experience of life through that phase?
Sure. So I think it's quite a miserable experience for both baby and parents.
And parents, yeah.
You know, the milk teeth break through sometime between 4 months and 2.5 years. We've got 20 milk teeth to erupt, so it's quite a lot of teething for those little kids. And as you say, these sharp little things erupt through the gum. And I always say to parents, it's like it's the feeling of having a gum ulcer or a mouth ulcer. So it's sore, it's irritating. And the little kids present often with irritability, so they're more fussy or clingy, drooling of the mouth.
There's always snot for some reason.
Sometimes there's a little bit of mucus. Yeah. They can have a low-grade fever, but not a fever over 38. That's not teething.
That's not teething.
They can have slightly loose stools, but once again, not watery diarrhea. That's not teething. And often they have a reduced appetite and are generally just clingy and miserable. And then they start putting everything into the mouth to soothe those gums.
And again, we just, take a moment to think about yourself when you've got a tooth issue or something wrong with your mouth or you're feeling like that. You are absolutely miserable. Thankfully, there are a couple of things that we can do to ease it, and some of them are not that complicated. Sometimes they just need something cold to put that little gum on or something. But what should we be doing to alleviate that irritation and that pain if we can?
So in children, we always say safety comes first.
Sure.
So don't use anything too herbal or experimental, because sometimes those things do more harm than good.
Good, yeah.
So keeping it simple, first of all, just allowing your baby to chew or on a clean finger, on your own clean finger, rubbing the gum. As you say, cold objects, so a teething ring that you've put in the fridge.
Exactly.
Sometimes even a face cloth, a nice clean face cloth that you've put in the freezer, and they can gum on that. Every now and again, well, quite commonly actually, children get so miserable that you think, oh no, I really need to do more with this little child. They're not eating, they're not sleeping, we're not sleeping, we are miserable. And generally the process for every tooth takes about 10 days. So they start gumming and then you see the little tooth coming through and then finally it's through a few days later. So sometimes we need systemic or oral treatment as well to take the edge off.
Step in paracetamol. What are the guidelines? You took us through your equation yesterday. Does the same kind of idea apply, or how should we be looking at this level of pain management in our little ones when it comes to teething?
So I always say for fevers and illness, you're going to need something like paracetamol very regularly in the first few days, so 6 hourly, sometimes even 4 hourly. But for teething, I generally advise that you don't give it quite as regularly, because then you could always be having your kid on some kind of pain medication. So rather keep it to 2 to 3 doses a day, and you can maybe have a slightly lower dose. So I gave you the equation yesterday, 0.6 mils per kilo, and I was thinking on the way in the car, that's way too complicated. So let's say for teething, rather take your baby's weight and divide it by 2. Okay, so if you've got an 8-kilo baby, about 4-5 mils will be fine. But generally for teething, give a dose in the evening if they're really struggling through the night, and maybe 1 dose during the day or 2 doses, but not as regularly as the febrile sick child.
Okay. And the nice thing is, because it tastes nice in this form, it becomes a pleasurable experience for them, and getting them used to taking medicine, it does help you so much in the long run. For me, it was all about frozen fruits, so like freezing strawberries and things like that. Thankfully, George has cut all of her teeth now, but the joy is then you get to see that one gorgeous little tooth sticking out when it eventually does break through.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm glad you highlighted the fact that this is something that babies and parents go through, because it can be quite a thing. Any last advice for parents that are going through this teething journey with their little ones to keep them a little happier and a bit more comfortable?
Yeah, so the babies are fretful during this time. They'll need lots of tender, loving care. You may have to even adapt their feeding schedule. Some kids go off solids, some kids go off milk. So give them what they prefer during that time. Keep their pain under control. Realize that it's actually a very painful process.
Yeah. Just
And
imagine
these are
it's in your own
just
mouth. Yeah.
Imagine if it's in your own mouth. These are the milk teeth. And as I say, just when you think you're over it, at 2.5, the last molars come through, premolars come through. But interestingly, our secondary teeth, so when we have our 6-year-olds getting their 6-year molars, it's not a painful process. So this is a short-lived thing for the first 2 years of a baby's life. Keep them comfortable. By all means, keep it safe. So don't give experimental treatment that hasn't been proven to be good. Keep something safe and reliable in your cupboard and give them doses of oral medications when they need it.
Well, luckily, this has been around that it almost fits into the bracket of like a family tradition. So I get that. And there are some fantastic kind of family traditions in the space passed down, but there are also some hard and fast rules. And if you need to help your baby get through that difficult time, this is definitely the way to go. I would just say for that next phase of the 6-year-old losing their teeth, discuss with the other parents how much a tooth is worth these days, because I would imagine with petrol rising, things have changed. Prof, thank you so much. I'm now looking forward to those final molars coming through in my 2-year-old. But we can certainly relate and identify if you are going through this. We know it can be quite a stressful time, especially for your little ones. So make sure, along with the paracetamol and whatever else you're doing, lots of cuddles as well.
Introducing new PANADO Pediatric Syrup 5ml sachets. They're really convenient to pack and easy to use, so you're always prepared for pain and fever anytime, anywhere.